And we should officially be live. So I'm gonna pretend as if we're live. Joan, let us know if there's any reason that we're not live. What's up, Andy? How you doing, man?
What's up, Ryan? Always a pleasure to be here with you.
Likewise, it's been a while, dude. So real quick, for everyone watching, Andy is one of our speakers coming from Behaviorme. We're gonna be also talking with Annie sometime in the next 3 weeks or so. She also works with Behaviorme staff training.
Hang on for a sec, Ryan. There's like a ton of echo on here.
Ooh, why? I see that we're live though. You're on here, Joan. Do we need to mute in between talking?
All right, it seems okay.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna restart this so we can cut it again. So, welcome everybody. Andy is our speaker today that we're gonna talk with, chat with. He's with Behaviorme, virtual reality and behavior analysis company. Super cool. I followed him for quite a while. We partnered in some different things like events. This session is brought to you by Terra Nova. They are our platinum sponsor as a part of Seattle's CHATTcon event, July 19th through 21st. So, Andy, welcome. What's up, man?
Ryan,
how's your day going? Doing well.
It's going well. Back-to-back meetings, but glad to have this little fun break in between. So
nice.
Yeah.
So on the topic today, paint a picture for listeners. We haven't caught up in a while. I'm just curious, what's going on in the virtual reality world? We're talking about human and animal training here. I know this moves lightning fast, and I want to end on what you all are talking about presenting at CHATTcon. So that's kind of we forged the ground on where we're going. What's new with Behaviorme? Let's start there. Since all the way back in July of 2018, when you guys came out, what's new with Behaviorme? And then maybe what we'll do is we'll go to like what's new in the market, virtual reality market.
Absolutely. So what's new with Behaviorme as of the last couple of months and weeks, quite frankly? So as you mentioned earlier, this field kind of moves at the speed of light, and we have to adapt to it as well. So we are a virtual reality company, right? Having that presence a little bit more. But more importantly, we are focusing, doubling down on our staffing VR solutions. Really, we've identified a clear pain point in the industry, and talent-wise, just everywhere, right? Not just in behavior analysis, but also you name it. Human resources are a huge bottleneck and pain point for a lot of folks. So we're focusing on almost exclusively on staff simulations. So staffing solutions. Now, in regards to virtual reality in the hardware world, geez, where do I even start, man? So we've been very involved since our time moving out to San Mateo. So we moved from San Mateo to San Mateo, California, about 2 months ago. We still have a dual presence. So we have East Coast offices and West Coast offices. And we are working in a beautiful basement in San Mateo, California. It's gorgeous outside, but we get to work inside all the time. But that being said, we've been exposed to a lot of sort of incredible individuals in the virtual reality ecosystem, really in the mixed reality system, the XR world.
Yeah. So what are some of the companies' VR labs that you visited in the last couple of months? I think this is pretty cool.
I mean, we went to multiple, twice so far, to Facebook labs, and to Oculus, and that was just incredible. That was to be at the place where they're prototyping the next headsets and literally seeing them working on the headsets, machining the new headsets. There was sort of a historical library of what virtual reality was or is for Oculus. And just for clarification purposes, Oculus is owned by Facebook, and they're literally 20 minutes down the road from where we're at.
Nice. And they're the main headset, right? Like the hardware that people are probably going to run into.
So yeah, it's interesting because there's almost like two sort of roads that virtual reality hardware is going into. The first road is the gaming road, right? Virtual reality started most recently with gaming, right? A lot of folks are creating some amazing games. The latest game that's all the craze in virtual reality is Beat Saber. I don't know if you guys have seen. There's a viral video. It's almost like Dance Dance Revolution. Remember that game from like 15, 20 years ago? But it's virtual reality, and you essentially have these sabers, and you're beating these boxes that fly at you, but at the rhythm of music. And it's really, really fun, dude. It is so much fun. And I think most recently, the biggest hype around it is that it obtained over 1 million downloads. So that is a huge component of entertainment and virtual reality. But then there's the other aspect of it, and that's enterprise use, right? So there's a huge push towards enterprise as well, right? So there's entertainment and there's enterprise. We obviously fall within the enterprise component of that, because not only do we find not only are we finding use in virtual reality within enterprise, but also other companies are doing that as well. I think the biggest, most recent example of that is Walmart. They purchased, I believe, is about 6,000 headsets or 600 headsets, and they distributed them over all their stores to specifically train for Black Friday. So imagine that scenario. You're a Walmart employee, you're training for Black Friday. Like, what do you do? Like, what if you're a new employee? Or what if you're an old employee and you still have to train for something different, right? So the chaotic nature of that setting can be easily trained for in virtual reality. And that translates over a multiplicity of industries, including ours.
Nice. So let's give an example here. What are some of the things that maybe you're working on program? Let's do I think the animal one's going to be tricky. Let's do that afterwards. Let's talk about like an actual application for this human training. Like, what are you guys working on developing? Like, what can you see when it comes to staff training?
Yeah, absolutely. So what the really interesting aspect about staff training, and I think it's a bit of I think we started off a bit on the naming it incorrectly. I think it's more like staffing VR solutions.
Okay.
Right. And I'm making that public as a statement right now. It's staff VR solutions or solutions for virtual for staffing in virtual reality. Essentially, what we're producing is a pre-hire and a post-hire component to being able to hire the right people and train them the right way, right? Okay. So what happens is that in the pre-hire process, I'm asking someone to come in and they're giving me a CV and they're presenting their best selves, right? And that's great, but I'll never be able to gauge for one, the technical aspects of their skill set in vivo right away, unless I put them into a demo. And by demo, I mean taking them to an actual room with a child, with a couple of PCBAs or therapists, and they have them, take notes or something like that. Or can I gauge for their soft skills, right? Can you actually play with kids, right? Do you understand that? You're telling me that you can, but I haven't seen you do it, right? Yeah. So part of the last interview process is, hop on this headset. I'm going to watch you interact with this child, and I want you to collect data on ABC, whatever, right? Whatever you want, XYZ, whatever the hiring agent or the hiring director is asking for, right? And all of a sudden, we see what their actions are. We're also recording what their actions are. So let's say the hiring director is not present. That can be sent out to the hiring director, who could be 100 miles away, and they can make an informed decision not only on what the interview process was like, but what their actual actions were with this avatar, right, in this world. Yeah, that's cool, the pre-hiring process.
So the the soft skills side is really interesting. I don't remember where it is. Quote me, I can find this afterwards. There was some research that was being done by some big organizations or universities in the field looking at just the cost of soft skills training, but the ROI that you get from it as well was like always there. Like, it was so cool to see that if you work on developing these skill sets, like, there is an ROI, because people are so hesitant to put in the time to help people with those sort of things. So I'll have to send you that, man, and you have to check it out. But it's one of those areas that I think behavior analysis, or people in, it doesn't matter where you're at, if you're working with a human and you have to work on soft skills, knowing what those are, but also which ones that you need to potentially teach. And like, if you guys could provide an application towards those sort of things, like, that's super cool. So I have a question. How does the avatar interact with the candidate?
Oh, that's a great question. So currently in one of our staff training simulations, we're doing an FA, so functional analysis. That's just one of the simulations that we're working on. And essentially what happens is that in specific simulations, we can have that character just be a non-playable character, so they're just acting out. But the way that you would interact with it is essentially by introducing some sort of stimuli, right? So you are providing them with some sort of reinforcer. So you're grabbing a teddy bear, for example, in virtual reality, and you're putting it on the desk where the child is at, right? And then that child changes their behavior, right? Or you do some sort of planned ignoring, right? So you look away, the child starts, screaming, you look away, but we've programmed it in such a way where you can't look away all the way. You have to keep the individual at the corner of your field of vision.
Smart. For
a period of time, right? I believe that period of time is 10 seconds, and then the child stops screaming, right? And then you go back to it, right? So there are ways of interacting with these non-playable characters, but that is not to say that the characters are not going to be completely playable, right? We foresee quite frankly, we foresee a simulation where the character is an avatar that you can practice on if you have some sort of doubts about your next intervention, right?
Okay.
So almost like the new Spiffy, right? Like, what are we gonna do? Like, this is the new avatar. Yeah.
Okay, dig. One other question from Maggie Pavone. How did you go about, or how did you go about defining criteria for soft skill success?
That's a great question. So we're still working on that, right? Soft skills are subjective across cultures, across regions. So really, we're more so taking a page out of some of the previous studies that have come out of, say, like Stanford University, or there's a really interesting company down in Los Angeles called Alelo, and they're doing soft skills training for the military. So when they're deployed in places like Afghanistan or Iraq, when they're interacting with tribes leaders there, they're not, quite frankly, they're not messing things up, right? Because they have to essentially know what the cultural what's the term that we use in behavior analysis? Yeah, some cultural competencies when you're interacting with these folks. So we're still working through that, and that's a great question, because soft skills is not something that I think necessarily we like to measure, right? We like to see like sort of actionable things, but there is room for measurement with soft skills. We're going to take a page from some of these other individuals. The thing is that in the virtual reality world, and specifically when it comes to training, the sky's the limit, man. It's not. We're not operating in a void anymore. We're operating in a place where there's a lot of research that will count towards this aspect of what we're doing.
Yeah, dig, man. The Stanford-like universities is who I was talking about that did that sort of social skills. I think it came out of MIT, or sorry, soft skills research. So I did one more poll to see if there's any other questions. I'm trying to think of how would this apply to training situations for people that work in animal training, animal husbandry. Like I could see direct parallels with you need to simulate how to interact in the common ways that an animal might behave if you're doing some sort of procedure, right? Like there should be no bounds to this virtual reality in its form. It was just taking the time to program those sort of simulations, right?
Yeah. And I would argue that's probably, it might be even simpler in a sense, but equally as complex. I think at some point last year, Ken Ramirez was asking as he approaches about like, I've been thinking about doing virtual reality simulations to train tigers or lions. I forgot what it was. And I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense because you don't want to train with an actual lion or tiger. That's quite dangerous. But I think that makes for a great. I think that makes for a great not side project. I think it makes just for a great enterprise solution for animal training. Yeah. And I think what I do want to say is that there are some products out there in the virtual reality world that aren't necessarily training actual animals, but they're actually so there's a company here from a couple of months ago, from like last year, that they're called Beast, and you train little pet dragons. So you play fetch with them, you teach them to roll over, you teach them all these really, kind of cutesy things. Yeah. So it also becomes sort of part of it's part entertainment as well, right? I think that's where excuse me, I think that's where it becomes really, really interesting, where you can essentially make this an entertainment module where you're training some sort of fantastical creature like a dragon, like a little pet dragon, right? And you watch them grow, right? But this pet dragon is acting just like a dog, right? Yeah. So, do you remember Neopets from like
Yeah.
It essentially becomes your little Neopet. You go back and you feed it and you play with it. And if you don't feed it, if you don't play with it, it becomes stubborn and it has rigid behaviors. And then you have to break through that. That's the same exact thing that they're doing. So I think part of it can be just really fun too.
Yeah, totally, man. There was this is where like. I don't know how easy this is. Like, if someone was recording in 360, I think about this. So if I had like a video camera recording in 360 in these situations, you can just port that over, right, to start some really simple, like in vivo examples. Like, even if you're not trying to train and have it perfectly, like the perfect VR experience, that's doable, right? Like, just record, port it over. And bam, like you could see what somebody was doing. So let's say that we're at our event and Ken's talking about his butterfly project, but that was recorded in 360 from his perspective. Like you should have been able to just put on the headset and experience as if he was where he was at, right?
Yeah.
Dude, this is so cool. This stuff is so amazing.
Absolutely. Some of the most beautiful experiences that I've ever had in virtual reality are 360 videos of places that I'll probably never ever go.
Yeah.
Right? And things that I'll never ever see or things that I missed.
Yeah. Super cool, man. We got a couple minutes for everybody. So if there's any last questions, we have 3 minutes. I have a hard 1:30 that I got to run to, man. I forgot to give you a heads up on. So, dude, I've got the 360 camera over there. I'm trying to think about how this could be simulated, man. If I could get to one of these trainers beforehand, we record and we could try to sim this sort of stuff. I feel like a simulation is something we should be thinking about doing.
Well, the thing with 360 video is that you can also produce it in such a way that you can have choices, right? The only thing is that you're gonna have to record all these possible. You're gonna have to record all the possible options. So it has to be controlled. It has to be acted out in a sense.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if one of those things is, I guess, seeing this and like experiencing it or hearing about it and experiencing would be two different things. So I'm trying to think about how we can maybe simulate that for the event, or at least have something where people could click the file and go check it out their own. Because like, man, this would be awesome for people just with like Google Cardboard to experience what you're talking about while you're on stage. One last thing before we wrap up. What is the plan? What are y'all submitting to talk about here? What's the plan to share?
So we're talking about how in behavior analysis there's going to be an increase in demand. I mean, there's already an increase in demand, and how we're going to meet that demand by using innovative technologies, right? Okay. And part of that is being able to train and have some sort of solution for the human resource aspect, right?
Okay.
So essentially, how we're going to address the large influx of professionals that are going to come into the field, and how we're going to maintain quality of services for individuals, and in turn, really at the end of the day, is to prevent turnaround or turnover, right? Because if the individual comes in and they're not prepared, right? If they're stressed out, if they weren't expecting what they're going to get, and that happens a lot in the field, then they're going to quit, right? And you're going to spend a lot of money, right, as a director, as a hirer, as an owner of a clinic, of a center, hiring folks over and over and over again, right, until you actually find the right people, right? So folks are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars just to train RBTs, right? Like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then if half of that turns over in a year, or even less, that's a lot of money, man. That's a lot of money. And that's a lot of resources that have gone into that, and it just doesn't make any sense, right? And ultimately, the bottom line, the individuals who are affected the most, like, screw the money, right? The individuals who are affected the most are the kids. So how do we fix that?
Yeah, and the money kind of gets people in some positions to pay attention to that. Okay. Dig, man. I think our call to action for specifically anybody in the animal community are we right on some of these parallels like could be brought over here? Like, I assume there's a huge staff cost and training costs and things like that in the animal training community. So anybody watching, if you can help us validate that in some sort of way, or talk about your sort of experiences and what you could see being trained, I think it'd be useful, so we can try to, I'm gonna put you on the spot here, Andy, but tie an example into the presentation at CHATTcon, and like draw those parallels for people, since we have human and animal trainers coming together. It'd be nice to get some sort of examples in the presentation that's like from that world. So cool, man. I've got to bolt off, so I know this is quick, and I'll be seeing you soon. I owe you more of a catch up at some point. But yeah, I guess I'll be seeing you in like 3 weeks. To everyone that chimed in, thank you so much. Someone, Selena joked, she said, Tamagotchi, ? She said, this reminds me of the book Ready Player One.
Essentially. It'll get to that point in a couple of years. I estimate from just talking to folks here, we're like 10, 15 years away from that, maybe 20 years away from that.
Okay.
There's some really interesting stuff up company sleeves, and we're in for some incredible stuff in the next decade for sure.
Yeah. Dude, bring it on. It's scary, but bring it on.
I'll leave you at this. The new hardware family that's coming out for virtual reality and mixed reality, and 5G. All right, keep that in mind. 5G is going to make the world incredibly different.
5G. I don't know what this is. Let's commit to like really diving into this, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, sweet, man. Sorry, I've got this other screen to where I could see, so I could see what people are saying. I didn't see any last minute questions. All right, Andy, I'll let you go. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Everybody out there, this is the this is all for CHATTcon 2019. This is our platinum sponsor Terra Nova, that helped bring all of these to you. And we are going on July 19th, 20th, and 21st. Andy, thank you very much. I will catch you.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, John. Yes.
All right, peace.